Okay, so welcome to lecture 5. So when you want to create a new products, so it is crucial to understand what your customer want in that particular products. Okay, so by knowing what the customers needs, this will allow you to develop and eventually sells your product successfully. So in today's lecture, we will try to understand what your prospect or your potential customers are looking for in this new product and how to identify these needs. And in the coming lecture, we will explore on how to incorporate these actual needs into the product. So according to Steve Jobs, customers often do not realize exactly what they really want in a product. Okay, so this situation is quite common, and this actually highlight the importance of understanding the customer's needs. But is this always the case? Okay, so that is the question. Is this always the case? So companies like Sony and Apple's, okay, so these two companies, they often lead with the innovations rather than directly asking the customer on what the customer really want in the product. So for examples, right? Okay, so most people, even me myself, I would not even not in my mind. I don't even know if it is possible to have a flexible phone. Okay, because even I don't even think if this is possible in the first place. So, but however, companies that who is special company that who is specialized in uh, displaying technology, for example, right? This company, they are aware about these possibilities, and they can introduce technologies. For example, this foldable smartwatch or foldable handphones. Okay, so this company, their approach is to guide the customer toward a new product by showcasing what is possible with the current or with the latest technology. Okay, so because these companies, right, they understand that average person like myself, okay, we we are we do not know the full scope of the technological advancement at at the present. Okay, so therefore this company, what they do, instead they will take the lead. So when this company develop a product like, for example, this foldable phone, okay, they are not just guessing what people might like, but they are banking on the attractiveness of innovation and the practical benefit of the innovation that it might bring. Okay, so for example, right, like this foldable phone. Okay, so this company, they know that this foldable phone can easily fit into the pocket, but at the same time, they also can be used as a smartphone. So these companies, right, they are not waiting for the market demand to dictate their next move, but instead, right, they are using the expertise to create something new, and with the uh, with the hope that the company with the hope that the customer will recognize and appreciate the innovations that they are offer on the tables. So what you have to understand is that the force or the motivation for the development, actually it started with the technological capabilities and visions of the company, but not due to the customer request. But here is the twist. Okay, so even within this framework, whereby the company lean on their expertise to create something new, but still, whatever or whenever they invent or design something new, right, they still aim to align their innovation with what the customer needs. Okay, so I keep on highlighting this even in during our first lectures. Okay, so the take home message here is whatever the invention is, we have to consider the customer's needs. Okay, so whatever we come out, it should be aligned with the customer's needs. Okay, so what you really need to understand is, okay, the primary goal of identifying customer need is to ensure that the product features align with what your customer really wanted. So in this video, what we will do is we will discuss about this step in identifying the customer's needs. Okay, so in these steps, we want to uncover insight into what truly matters to the customer. So hopefully by understanding these customers' needs, it can help us in designing product that meet or at least exceed the customer expectations. So since the beginning of these videos, right, I keep on emphasizing about customers' needs. But what does customers' need really mean? So in simple terms, customers' needs mean some special features that the customers desire to present in the product. Actually, customers' needs can be categorized into these 6 needs. Okay, so um, it can be a direct needs, latent needs, constant needs, variables needs, general needs, and niche needs. Okay, so we will discuss this each of these needs one by one. Okay, so the first type of needs is what they call as direct needs. Okay, so direct customers needs. So these needs is a type. Okay, so this needs actually a needs that the customer can easily tell you about. So for examples, right, if you ask someone who want to buy a smartphone, okay, so this customer they might say that they want a phone that maybe have a long battery life, or maybe they want a smartphone who have a high resolution camera, say for example 200 or 1000 megapixel camera, or maybe they want a large screens smartphones about maybe 20-30 inch of screens. Okay, so when the customers expressing this type of needs or direct needs, the customers express it in a way that very clear and they are explicit about this requirement. Okay, so these needs are very straightforward and it's quite easy to identify. Okay, so basically you just need to ask the customer and the customer will provide all the details. So yep, of course, sometimes maybe the customer they might not express the direct needs in the exact language that the is the designer that used to. Okay, but at least the customer they are quite clear about what they are looking for. Okay, so there is other needs. Okay, so because take for example, right, okay, so sometimes, okay, so sometimes when you are looking at a product, right, there are things that are not immediately obvious. Okay, so this is what they call as latent needs. Okay, so sometimes, right, we as a customers, right, we are not even aware about these needs, or we might not explicitly mentions about this need directly, but only the PD teams or the product development teams who can decipher this kind of needs. Okay, so this is latent needs. Okay, so when we talk about latent needs in the context of what customers uh, in the context of what the customers needs, right, from a product. So basically we are referring to those under the radar, not so clear needs. Okay, so these are needs, these are the kinds of things or kinds of needs that you might not openly express or even realize you want, but still they are important. Okay, so basically it is a hidden desire that is quite hard to express, but when met, it makes a big difference. Okay, so for an analogies, right? It's like you are craving something, but you are not so sure about what you are craving. But when someone, for example, in this case, right, when your girlfriends offer you some foods, okay, some variety of foods, only 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 that moment you know that your girlfriend had offered you exactly what you were looking for. Okay, so basically this is the kind of insight that the designer or the product development teams aim to identify. So for example, right, a lantern needs can be like a desire for personalized learning experience in educations, or it can also be a needs for product that make healthy living easier and more enjoyable, or maybe it can be a longing for authentic connection in a digital world. So just to recap, this is the difference between explicit needs and lantern needs. Okay, so explicit needs here, you can say, I need a phone so I can call my friend. Whereas the lantern needs, um, it can be something like, okay, I need a phone that makes me feel connected to my loved one, even when I'm far away. But if you provide some features, okay, uh, maybe yeah, at least it can fulfill the desire of your customers. So another kind of needs that we often see in the product is what we call as constant need. Okay, so these are needs that always exist regardless of time or technological advancements. So a great example to understand this concept is the evolutions of internet connectivity in mobile phones. So consider how internet speeds have evolved from 2G to 3G, then 4G, and now we have 5Gs. Okay, so a decades ago, so 2G internet was a big deal. Okay, because 2G it allowed us to send text or SMS, but um, yeah, apart from sending text and SMS, but it also allow us to access the internet or the web using only our phones. But soon, during that period, right, people wanted faster speeds. So this leads to the introduction of 3G, and then this pattern continue with each generations. Okay, so now from 2G, then we have 3G to 4G, and then now we have 5Gs. Okay, so throughout these changes, right, the constant need has been for what? So for a faster internet connectivity. Okay, so people always require a faster internet connectivity. Okay, so as technology improve, but the expectations, okay, so the customer expectation for speed also increase, but the underlying need for quick, reliable internet access remain constant throughout the years. So these types of need is something that has always been there and will likely continue to be a priority in the futures. Then there is also what we call as variable needs. Okay, so variable needs are those needs or demand that change with time and technology. Okay, so this type of needs, as the name imply, variable, it is not constant. Okay, So these needs will evolve over the years or will evolve over times. But it is also possible that these needs will even disappear as new technology emerge. Okay, so take for examples, right? Um, this phone charger. Okay, so a few years ago, most smartphone use chargers with Type A or Type B connector. Okay, so that was the customer's preference back then. But now, um, the trend has shifted. Okay, so now instead of using USB Type A, Type B, now most customer, even me myself, right, we prefer to use USB Type C connector. Okay, because we know that USB Type C is much more versatile compared to the USB Type A and Type B. Okay, so basically this type of needs change as the technology progress. So um, it is important for you guys, when you want to develop a product, right? It is crucial to think ahead about which technology might shift in the near future. Okay, so this kind of thinking approach is to ensure that your product remain relevant and meet the user evolving needs. Okay, so variable needs are those requirements that not fixed. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this type of needs change as the technology advances. Okay, and maybe it also change as, or maybe it will evolve as what the users wanted or require. Okay, and another type of needs is what they call as niche needs. Okay, NICHE, niche. So these are very specific needs that only apply to certain product in a particular situations or environment. Okay, so this type of need, these niche needs, they are not universal, but they are tailored for a specific market segment. Okay, so take smartphone. Okay, for example, right? So generally, we know that every smartphone, they have some built-in security mechanisms. Okay, so maybe we have a fingerprint to unlock, or maybe we have a face unlock. Okay, but however, in some specific market segments, right, or maybe uh, a market segment for business professionals, for example, maybe their requirement for safety mechanisms is much more stringent than a normal mobile phone user. So maybe they might need a smartphone with advanced security features. Okay, so for example, right, the smartphone requires some airtight security. Okay, so whereas for general consumer, these advanced security features might not be as important. So um, basically what I'm saying is we only try to fulfill these niche needs only for some specific market segment. Okay, so these needs are not universal, but we only cater it for some specialized segment. Okay, or maybe for for some specific use case. So basically, understanding these niche needs is vital in product development. Okay, so if you overlook these niche needs, right, you might end up not fully satisfy your customer segment. So what happened, this can lead to dissatisfactions when the consumer use your product. So remember, okay, so always remember, we cannot please everyone's, right? Okay, so yep. So in this case, right, what I'm trying to highlight is uh, we we are not required to please everyone, but at least by knowing but at least, right, you need to understand what different group or what different market segments are looking for for your products. So this understanding will help you in deciding which needs are more critical and which are less. So at least this will help you to tailor your product for some market segment accordingly. So apart from that, right, there is also what we refer as general needs. Okay, so basically general needs are needs that apply universally across the customer base. So in the context of smartphone, okay, so a general need will be a user friendliness. So regardless of the user technical expertise, okay, maybe your the this smartphone, right? Um, we always want our smartphone that um, easily navigate, okay, or maybe we want a smartphone that at least we can use the basic functions quite easily without much more without any hassles. So yeah, basically there are 6 types of needs, and all of these needs are fundamental for a product to be successful. Okay, so however, let us focus on the direct needs and the lantern needs. Okay, so both the direct and lantern needs are crucial. Okay, so the direct needs can help in guiding for for some basic for some basic design and functionality of a product, whereas the lantern needs um, this lantern needs whom will often lead to more innovative features and improvement. Okay, this lantern needs which will make your product stand out compared to your competitor. So the big questions now is, how do we identify these direct and lantern needs in a methodological method in a systematic way? Okay, so yeah, I think it's quite easy that maybe you can just simply ask a few peoples about their needs, but of course, at least in EPIT, right, we want uh, an approach that is quite systematic, that at least we can repeat it and it can give a good result. Okay, so because we know that by doing a systematic approach, usually it will give us a much more better result. So this is what we're going to explore in this video. Okay, so before we proceed further, um, let us discuss in detail about the different type of user. Okay, so there are 2 type of users that are of interest for identifying customer needs. Okay, so we have here lead user and extreme user. Okay, so when we are talking about lead user, we are talking about a customers who are really ahead of the curve. Okay, so what does ahead of the curve mean? Okay, so ahead of the curve refer to a set of user who are expert or heavily involved in a certain activity that are related to the product. Okay, so often this individual, they 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 encounter some specific needs or some specific challenges while using that product. Okay, so because yeah, why because because this type of users, right, they they use the product much more regularly compared to the average user. So because of this, they are much more likely to face certain challenges or issues much more earlier than the average user. So these issues, right, although it is initially unique to this lead user, but it will eventually become common for many users in the future. So the difference between lead user and a normal user is that lead user experience these challenges maybe months or even years before most people realize it. So since they encounter this situation much more earlier, maybe this user, right, they are much more highly motivated to find solution to these challenges because they are among the first to experience all of these challenges. So take for example here a professional photographer. Okay, so this professional photographer, they are often the first people camera manufacturer uh, who turn for an insight. Okay, so you may ask why. Okay, so because these photographers, right, they constantly need for high quality equipment, and yeah, of course, over the time they can solve some specific problems while using the old version of the camera. Okay, so maybe um, uh, these photographers, right, maybe they are looking for some advanced image processing software to enhance the image quality. So maybe all of these ideas, right, it can help the camera manufacturer to improve their product. And then we also have what we refer to as extreme user. Okay, so extreme user, as the names imply, are customer who utilize the products in unconventional ways. So maybe here, in these animations, right, if we think a dog as a product, okay, so most people, even me myself, right, we usually see dog as a pet. However, in this case, the owner is using the dog as a tool to create drawing. Okay, so yeah, so basically what I'm saying is that this owner, he's using the dog in an unconventional ways. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, our aim for this video is to identify the customer needs in a systematic fashion. And okay, so as you have seen um, since the beginning of these videos, right, there are several steps to identify these customer needs. So the first steps in identifying customer needs is gathering raw data directly from the customers. Okay, so but however, for your assignments, right, due to time constraints, we may not have the time to do this, but suffice to know that um, the customer's needs are best understood by obtaining these informations directly from your customer. Okay, but yep, nevertheless, in actual setting at least, I don't think it is wise if the product development team just sitting in a room and speculating about what the customer really wanted. Okay, so because I think simply sitting, simply stating about the requirement without the actual in in without the actual feedback from your customer might not provide you with the accurate insight. Okay, so therefore, to collect this raw data, right? Okay, so it is essentials to engage with your customer directly. Okay, so what you can do is you can ask them what they are specifically seeking in your product. Okay, so this whole process is what we call as raw data collections. Okay, so what we do, we basically we obtain all of this information simply by prompting the customers to express maybe their concerns. Okay, so for example, here we have a kayak, right? So maybe the PD teams, they can ask the customer whether this kayak which is a product, whether this kayak is maybe is it difficult to navigate, or maybe it is too heavy or difficult to carry. Okay, so maybe, yeah, of course we can ask this type of questions. So as you can see here, there are several data gathering techniques. Okay, so we have interview, questionnaire, focus group, and BD customer. So the first approach is pretty simple. Okay, so this interview approach. So the PD teams will have an interview sessions with the customer. So the PD teams, they will take some times to sit down with the customer face to face, and then they will have some conversations with the customer and understand the customer perspective. So maybe, yeah, during that sessions, the PD team, they can ask the customer about what they enjoy about the product, or maybe they can ask which area the company could do better with the product. Okay, so yep, the PD team can conduct the interview. The interview, yeah, they can conduct maybe at the office, or even they also can conduct the interview at the customer's home. Okay, so the whole idea of this interview is to listen and to learn uh, from the customers. Okay, so during the interview sessions, okay, so you will listen to the suggestions or feedback of the customer. Okay, but most importantly, during the interview sessions, we need to understand the context of the sharing sessions. Okay, or maybe we need to understand the context of the feedbacks. Okay, because this is essential for the steps 2 later. So another way of gathering customer feedback is by using questionnaire. So in this approach, right, the company, what they do, they will craft a series of questions, and then they will send this questionnaire to a big number of customer. So the questionnaire approach, it basically allow the company to reach more people, and by doing this, we can get a large pool of informations about the product, or maybe about the concerns for that particular product. So if you want to get the customer's need in a systematic approach and on a larger scales, right? Yep, you can consider this questionnaire approach. So the third approach is by employing the focus group. So in this approach, a specific group of individual is invited for a sharing sessions, and during these sharing sessions, the participants are engaged in a conversations about the product. Okay, so the aim for this focus group, right, is to have an open discussions within the focus group setting. So compared to the two approach that we discussed earlier, focus group offer a much more dynamic platform for obtaining a collective perspective. Okay, so this is because all of these participants, they can interact with each other. So due to this interaction between the participant, this can lead to a much more deeper discussions and much more nuanced understanding about each of the participation's view. So what happens, right? This participant, they can build their thought better. Okay, basically they can build their thought based on their interaction with the other members of the focus group. So maybe for examples, right? um, Maybe a participant A. Okay, so this participant A, he or she might initially express a general preference for a laptop with the best performance for a students. However, as the discussions progress, so this participant A, he or she can be influenced by the other participants who emphasize about the importance of other factors. Maybe the participants B or participant B or participant C, maybe he keep on emphasizing about factors like after sale service, warranty, and the availability of service centers. So this can lead to the participant A to reconsider and refine um, his or her initial preference. So basically, this method it can provide a much more interactive and qualitative approach in understanding a customer's needs. Okay, once again, um, this can happen due to the um, interactions between the participants. And another approach for gathering raw data is be the customer. Okay, so what you can do is you can put yourself in the shoes of a customer and then respond to the questions. So in this method, right, in this be the customer method, the PD teams or the developer, they put themselves in the shoes of the customers. Okay, and maybe during that time, during the data gathering sessions, the developer, he or she will respond to a questions like maybe if I were a customer for this product, what will be my requirement, what needs would I have. Okay, so you can ask this type of questions. So yeah, of course, for your group assignment, um, you can do something similar. Okay, so you ask yourself, if you are the customers, right, what type of features that you required for that product. So basically, you are adopting the customer perspective and you try to identify the potential expectations and preference. Okay, so this is an interesting graph. So as you can see, right, while the interview or focus group have its own merit, but this graph shows something um, interesting pattern. Okay, so it seems that the focus group seems to be especially good at identifying a high percentage of customers' needs compared to the number of people or group involved. Okay, so yeah, basically, yeah, in this case, it is better to employ the focus group for raw data gathering. So yeah, what is the reason behind this finding? So as I mentioned right previously, focus group, can it will allow, during the focus group, right, it allow a much more deep conversations. Okay, so what happened? Uh, the ideas. Okay, so if let's say right, participant A, maybe he just raised one idea, so his idea will bounce to the other participants, and maybe during these interactions, it can reveal a much more detailed insight and much more rich informations about what the customer are really looking for. But yeah, of course, masa mencemburui kita, right? As I always mentions about this. So basically we don't have the liberty to do a focus group for our group assignments, but at least in this course we will consider the interview approach, at least if time permits lah. Okay, so if time permits, you can consider the interview approach for gathering the informations for your product development. Okay, so one handy tools that can assist you for the interview sessions is the like dislike form. Okay, so this form is quite straightforward, and basically it just focus on 4 key area, which are the typical use, like, dislike, and suggested improvement. Okay. Okay, so let's say you are developing a new consumer-based laptop. Okay, so this is a hypothetical situation, right? You are developing a new consumer-based laptop, and now imagine you are interviewing a laptop user who might be is your friend, okay, and your friend is a student like yourself. So you can ask your friends, like for example, right, what are the typical use for your laptop, okay, and maybe you also can ask to you can prompt your friend to express about what they enjoy about their laptops, or maybe what aspect they are dissatisfied about when they are using the laptop, or maybe you can ask if there is any improvement they like to see when using the laptop. Okay, so with this form, right, with this like form, we are very specific with the questions that we prompt to the customer. So basically all of this prompt it is designed to draw out a candid feedback from the customer. Okay, so by doing this we are giving the customer the opportunity to share their honest feedback or experience while using the product. Okay, so if I remember correctly, you have to come out with all of this prompt for the tutorial exercise. Okay, so yep, of course this is another examples that I obtained from the textbook. So this is possible response from the customer when they are answering the like dislike of questionnaire just now. Okay, so if they are asked about the typical uses, right, yeah, of course they can ask these 3 item here. And similarly, if this is another examples of a response if the customer are being asked about what they like about the drill. So similarly, this is a possible response if the customer are being asked about what they dislike about the product. And yep, this is suggested improvement that the customer can provide to you. Okay, so for the stage 1, right, step 1, all the details that you gather from the customer are, as I mentioned, is the raw informations. Okay, so the all of this raw information is super valuable because it is unfiltered and direct from the source directly. So the next stage is to interpret this raw data in terms of customers' needs. Okay, so in these second steps, we need to understand what the customer really needs and want. Okay, we need to interpret what the customer is talking and translating them into an actual needs. Okay, so that is the whole idea for the steps number 2. So how do you turn what a customer tells you into something useful for the product development? So basically, according to Asokans, right, there are 5 key tips that you should keep in mind when you try to translate and when you try to understand what the customers needs. Okay, so firstly, focus on what the product needs to achieve rather than how it should do. Okay, so we can achieve this by expressing the customer's need in terms of what. Okay, so we are making the goal much more clear. Okay, so this is crucial because it can help you in it can help you, not only you but your teams, in understand the exact customer problem. Okay, so without any preconceived notions about these solutions. Okay, so for instance, right, take the customer's needs statement. I would like my iPhone to adjust my thermostat. Okay, so here this need is not just about using an iPhone. Okay, it should be broader. Okay, it should be about controlling the thermostat conveniently. Okay, so if okay if we say the thermostat is accompanied by downloadable iPhone apps. So if we are translating the customer statement into this statement here, the thermostat is accompanied by a downloadable iPhone apps. What we are actually do is we are limiting the solution to iPhone user only. Okay, so this is the how, but not the what. But what we can say, we should make it much more general. Okay, so we can write it as the thermostat can be controlled remotely without requiring a special device. So basically, we in this statement here we are focusing on the actual needs. Okay, so basically we want to control the thermostat remotely. Okay, so by translating the customer's statement into this statement here, okay, so from here we are translating into this statement here. So basically we are not tied our solution into a single solution. Okay, for example here, right, we are limited our solution to the iPhone apps. Okay, but in this case, right, control remotely, basically we can control the thermostat using different phone. Maybe we can control using just using a voice assistant, or yeah, like any other device. Okay, so this is why it is important to express the needs in terms of what. Okay, and not how. Okay, so at least it can keep the options open for various solutions. Apart from that, it is crucial to be specific when you express the customer's need. Okay, we should be specific so that everyone is on the same page about the customer's needs. Okay, so basically this ensure clear communications and understanding among different group or individual. Okay, remember, for a product development, we are not working in silo. Okay, so because as I mentioned, we always work in a group. So that's why um, the statement, when we craft our statement, right, it should be as clear as possible, as specific as possible. So um, this is something that you need to remember. The When customer express their needs, um, this statement usually is a bit vague, or maybe they are a bit too general. So what happen if we translate this statement in the same ways, right? What happen is this can lead to a misunderstanding. Okay, if there is a misunderstanding, so what happen? The product development team, they may produce a solutions that don't really hit the mark. Okay, so therefore, um, whenever translating the customer's needs, right, um, you should be specific. Okay, so means you need to describe the need as specific as the initial informations allow. Okay, so take for example here, um, this is the statement that we obtain from the customer. I have different heating and cooling system, but if we say the thermostat is versatile, okay, so this statement is, I can say, a bit too general, and it failed to meet the customer specific requirement. Okay, so the term or the word versatile is quite a broad terms, because why I said it is broad, because it can refer to various feature or functions. Okay, so this phrasing is unclear. So it is vague. So since it is vague, so this statement can easily lead to confusions about what the customer um about what the thermostat should perform exactly. But if we refresh it like this, right, um, this version, okay, this version is much more clear, and this version directly address the customer's specific needs. Okay, so what is the specific needs? The customer, he intend to have a thermostat that have the capability to have control um, separate heating and cooling system. Okay, so this statement is very clear, okay, and it is very specific, and since it is very specific, therefore it can help in avoid misunderstanding. So by having this kind of statements, it ensures that anyone who read this statement here, they can devise more accurate and effective solutions. Okay, so another tips is it is much more easier to translate a need into a product specifications if it is expressed as a positive statement. Okay, so in English writing styles, positive statements are factual assertions that can be tested or verified. Okay, so basically, this kind of statement, statement, they are dealing with the state of the world, and they can make conclusions based on certain assumptions. Okay, so in the context of product development, positive statement about needs means it should be specific, clear, and focused. Okay, about what the product should do or what is the benefit the product should provide. Okay, So this clarity and specificity will help to translate this need into a product specifications. Okay, so for example here, when the customers mentions I get tired of standing in front of my thermostat to program it. Okay, so if we refresh this statement as the thermostat does not require me to stand in front of it for programming. Okay, so in this style, it seems that this statement is pointing out a problem. Okay, so what do I mean by problem? This statement highlighting about the customer who feel it is inconvenient and uncomfortable to program the thermostat while standing. Okay, so this statement is not so clear about what the customer actually needs. So yep, here it basically it implied that the issue of tiredness from standing. But like I mentioned, this statement it does not directly state what would improve these situations. Okay, and it also does not specify what a better experience might look like. Okay, so this lack of clarity can lead to a confusion. Okay, so for example, right, someone might think that maybe he said that, oh, when your another product development team who read this statement, right, maybe he or she have the impressions that maybe the customer what he really wanted is to program the thermostat while sitting down, or maybe while even maybe uh, while swimming, for example. Okay, so this statement here it can lead to a lot of guesses and assumptions. So as a result of these different assumptions, um, different people might come up with a different solutions. But all of these solutions that being offered into the table, right, it might not really solve the customer main issues. But if we translate this statement into this statement here, this statement basically imply that we know that in the end the customer want to control their thermostat without the discomfort of standing in front of the panel. Okay, so yeah, basically the positive statement focuses on what the product should do and not on what the product should not do. Okay, so by translating the customer statement using the positive statement, it can help the designer or engineer to understand what feature to add to improve the customer experience. So okay, it is also a good idea to avoid using words like must and should. Okay, remember as we seen so far, we try to generalize the customer needs statement. Okay, so when we use words like must and should, it sounds like we are trying the it sounds like we are make or make some uh, it sounds that we want to have a specific solution for the product. Okay, so but if this happen, right, um, it can constrain the idea generations later. Okay, remember we try to make the statement as general as possible so that um, we are not constraining the idea for improving the product. Okay, so because if we constrain these solutions, maybe this can limit our ability to think creatively. Maybe there are other solutions that maybe is much more helpful for addressing that particular issues. Okay, so the key here, is to keep the statement as open as possible and as op as open as possible, and it also should be as flexible as possible. Okay, at least by doing this, it can encourage a more innovative solutions that being offered on the table. And of course, when translating the customer needs, right, the customer statement, it is important to avoid sounding too demanding. Okay, we want to ensure that our wording is aligned with the customer's view about their needs. Okay, so this table basically it summarizes all the 5 guidelines, and here you have the customer statement, and then this is something that you should avoid, and this is the proper way of translating the customer statement into the customer needs. Okay, so after you interview with many customer, okay, so we might end up with more than 100 or more translated customer needs. So this is quite a huge number, and we should manage all of these customer needs properly. And yes, maybe from this 100 customer needs, there might be some overlap where different customer are actually asking for the same things. And it is also a good idea if we can organize all of these needs into categories. Okay, so by removing overlap customer needs, and after we sort it and we rank it, this basically it can help you to strategize on the best way to deal with each of the customer needs. Okay, so by doing this, we can tackle the big issues first. Okay, and by doing this, basically we can save times rather than solving problems that is not that critical. Okay, so one way to conduct or one way to help you in organizing these customer needs is what they call as affinity process. Okay, so what we do, as you can see here in this on your screen, so what we do, we can write down all the customer needs, and then we stick it on the sticky notes. But of course, this exercise, it is not limited to just sticking the sticky notes on the wall, but you also can use the Microsoft Whiteboard and paste it there. Okay, so this is what we did since week 2 actually. But regardless which medium you are using, either you stick on the wall or using the whiteboard, but here how this process actually happening. Okay, so for each customer needs, you write down the needs on the sticky note. Okay, so this is the needs that you had translated in the stage 2 earlier on, and then you stick this note into the onto the wall or into the whiteboard. Then when we move on the second customers, right, sometimes we notice, hey, maybe this customer is looking for the same thing as the first one. So if the needs is similar, or if there is a connections between the needs between the customer A and customer B, so you can place the second customer notes right under the first one. But if they are talking about the same things, okay, so yeah, you can simply eliminate this redundant statement. But if the need is quite different, right, so yeah, you can just find a new spot to stick the new needs. So you repeat the same procedure for the subsequent customers needs for other customer, and after that you will notice different group of needs statement emerge. Okay, so for ease of identifications here, you can choose to label each of these group. Okay, so you also can consider using LLM like ChatGPT or whatnot. I will discuss this in detail in our class later, in our tutorial sessions. Okay, so in the end, right, you should get something like this. So this is all of the identified needs that have been groups. Okay, and under each group, there are some unique customer needs. Okay, so the fourth steps is establish the relative importance of the needs. Okay, so to figure out what our customer really need and prioritize those needs, we need to determine the relative importance of the customer needs. So basically, it's not just about pasting each of these needs on the wall and seeing what stick, but we usually what we did, we will step back and ask ourselves which of all of these needs are really worth to be pursued further. Okay, which among all of these needs that the customer value the most. Okay, so this is the kind of questions that we need to ask ourselves. So there are two approach for determining the relative importance of the customer's needs. Okay, so the first approach is based on the team member experience with the customer, and the second approach is by conducting a customer survey. So first, we can lean on what we learned from talking to our customer earlier on. Okay, so this approach is pretty straightforward and it doesn't cost much. So this approach, it takes advantage of the first-hand insight gained by the team member during the conversations with the customer. Okay, so remember when we do the interviews, right, of course we have seen firsthand how the customer react when the customer provides the particular insight. So the interviewer, of course, during the interview sessions, they saw the customer body language when they share something during the interview sessions. So the PD teams, they can relate the customer enthusiasm when they are talking about each of the particular each of the needs. So yep, this approach is quick because we are using what we are already know, and yeah, it is quite cost effective. And then the second approach is by asking our customer directly through a survey. But this approach might take a bit longer, usually more than a week, because we have to prepare the survey, then we have to send it out, and then wait for the response from our customer. So this is an example of the thermostat survey with all the identified and translated customer needs. Okay, so after you conduct all the process, step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4, so in the end, we should reflect on the result and the process. Okay, so this is all questions that we should ask ourselves. Yep, I will discuss this in detail in the tutorial sessions.